You have the floor here. What are you hearing about this, Mike?
Well, I hear all sorts of things all the time. When I start hearing the same thing from different people that I know who operate in different portions of the broader NFL universe, I start paying attention to it. And I tried to couch it very, very carefully. And the challenge is differentiating hard news versus things that we are hearing and things that are still in the rumor category, and making sure that people understand that, but also giving people insight into what's happening behind the curtain. And what's happening behind the curtain is this buzz, this belief, this suspicion that Deshaun Watson may eventually want out of Houston, and this talk that he's already suggesting the possibility to teammates. Now, could this be an effort by him to make sure that the Texans take seriously whatever input they have received from him on who the next coach should be? That's entirely possible. Or is he already exasperated? I think the coaching hire is going to push this to a head one way or the other. He's either going to be happy with who they hire and all in, or he's going to be thinking, I don't think this is going to work. Maybe it's time for me to move on. And whether it's this year or next year, maybe they convince him. Maybe they sweet-talk him into sticking around for one more year and giving it a try with the new coach. But I really do believe what they decide with the next head coach is going to have a huge, huge influence on whether or not he makes a move to try to find himself a new team.
So the NFL Films moment captured by J.J. Watt after the season-ending loss to Tennessee, in which it was so close, with him saying, basically apologizing for wasting a year of his career. How does that play into a lot of the stuff that you're hearing right now?
I think it's a reflection of the reality that Deshaun Watson is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. His numbers were phenomenal. The team couldn't hold up its end of the bargain. Look at the dysfunction that they've been through over the past couple of years. And if I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm looking at the Chiefs and what they have in Patrick Mahomes. And I'm thinking, if I was there with everything around me that Mahomes has, I'd be the number one seed in the AFC, taking the week off, getting ready for a home playoff game. Look at Buffalo. If I was the quarterback there instead of Josh Allen, we'd be in the exact same spot. And what do we have here, and when is it ever going to get any better? And they traded DeAndre Hopkins, and I didn't like that, and I don't like where we are, and we don't have the draft picks that will help me get better. I could understand the frustration, and we've seen more and more NFL players basically dictating the terms of their future employment, most notably a couple of years ago, Antonio Brown tweeting his way out of Pittsburgh and picking his next team. If a franchise quarterback is not all in, I don't know that you'll want to have him. I don't know that you need him. You need him, but you don't need a guy who's not all in. You need a member of the roster who's essentially a member of management, the guy who sets the tone, the guy who shows up early, stays late, influences everyone on the roster to do what they need to do. If your starting quarterback isn't all in, that's a problem. So this could be a mess for the Texans if it goes that way. I'm not saying it will,
right?
But I know that plenty of people in the league are paying attention to whether or not that'll happen.
Because everyone, it would be a feeding frenzy. And in a way, Nick Caserio who's now the new GM there from the Belichick tree, they need to replace all the draft choices that someone else from the Belichick tree just basically handed away for obviously Laramie Tunsil is a significant player, and it's handing DeAndre Hopkins away essentially for only a 2. You do have to replenish that. So, and then what about the idea of who the next coach can be? Is Eric Bieniemy not on the list? Because you mentioned
that reported yesterday, everyone's interviewed him who has an opening except the Texans. And I was on with DP earlier, and we were kind of kicking around the idea of what's going on here. And I don't discount the possibility, assuming that Bieniemy is a guy that Watson would want, and why wouldn't he? Assuming that he does, it's probably better to not even interview him than to start down the path of flirtation and then have to explain to Deshaun Watson why you didn't hire him when you interviewed him and you interviewed 5 other guys and you hired one of the other guys. So, steering the process completely away from Bieniemy may be the easiest way to not get the guy that Deshaun Watson may want. I don't know who he said to ownership he wants. I do know that ownership has made it clear, and Watson has said it himself, that they're getting his input on this hire. That's fine. That's proper. And I'm a big believer. Rich, we've heard from time to time guys like Brett Favre, mind your business. You're not here to pick personnel. You're here to play quarterback. And you got to know your place. Russell Wilson, what are you doing suggesting who we should hire? Look, if you're going to make your quarterback part of management, you need to give him a seat at the table for the management decisions. But if you do, and you don't listen to him, that makes it even worse.
All right, last one for you here. You know how these things work. Smoke becomes fire or something along those lines, but not until there are inflection points, either contractual deadlines or draft deadlines. When do you think something like this could truly manifest itself, if there is any there?
Well, if
Mike?
there is a there, I think they're going to line up out the door like they did for Peyton Manning 9 years ago. This is a guy who's young, who's healthy, who's incredibly effective, and I think all but a very small handful of teams should be thinking, do we get into this bidding war for Deshaun Watson? And you're right, Rich. They could get a ton of draft capital in return for him because you just sit back and let them keep going. Let the auction go. Let them keep raising the paddles until you're getting a gigantic haul for Deshaun Watson. And I think that if they play their cards right, they indeed could if he does want out. Now, if you're Deshaun Watson, do you want to let them play their cards that way? Because you're going to a team that's given up all this stuff. You'd rather the team not give up all that stuff. You don't want to step into the same situation you're in where the cupboard's bare for draft picks because of everything they give up to get you. So it's going to be a delicate process. But I think that it's one of those things that happens not long after the league year begins on March 17th, because you can line everything up ahead of time and then officially do it at 4 p.m. Eastern that day.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.